Hey everyone, what's going on? If you're new to the channel, you're going to have to go to the video description and check out some of the links, and you'll learn to apply what I'm talking about, and you'll learn more of what I'm talking about in this video. But what I talk about is how there are signs and symbols placed in front of us every single day, and if you just pay enough attention to these signs and symbols and these strange coincidences or synchronicities that happen in your life, you can find meaning within these things. And you have to understand some ancient knowledge practices to fully grasp what is going on. And there's always more to learn. I need to learn more as well. But I'm just sharing these videos because I want other people to try to get a better understanding of it. And if you've been following what I've talked about recently, I've been mentioning this date of May 16th a whole lot. I knew there was something important that either was going to happen within the mainstream media, or there was something on this day that I was supposed to see, and it would make more sense to what I have been documenting about over and over. And part of the May 16th stuff had to do with the Big Bang Theory. It's this TV show that literally always syncs up to the things that I am documenting about and talking about. And just recently I made a video about the Big Bang Theory surpassing the TV show Cheers and why that was important. And then also I made this video about Buffy the Vampire Slayer in connection to the death of Luke Perry, because Luke Perry was in that movie Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And I'm going to elaborate on this in a minute, but I just wanted to point out, within the last few months, I've talked a whole lot about both of these two things. And the season finale of The Big Bang Theory just so happened to fall on May 16th. And you can check out this link in the description. I talk all about why this date is important. But look at this. So when you go to the season finale of The Big Bang Theory, the running joke on the episode is that Buffy the Vampire Slayer was on this episode. So, what are the odds? As much as I've talked about Buffy the Vampire Slayer and also the Big Bang Theory, now Buffy the Vampire Slayer is the running joke on not even just the season finale, the absolute last episode ever of the Big Bang Theory. And it starts off where they're on an airplane because Sheldon and Amy win the Nobel Prize in Physics, and they go to Sweden to give their speech and whatnot about the Nobel Prize. And Raj just so happens to be sitting next to Buffy the Vampire Slayer from the TV show on the airplane. And he would ask Howard, like, is that Buffy the Vampire Slayer? Then later, Raj takes her as his date to Sheldon and Amy's speech in Sweden. And Sheldon even stops in the middle of his speech and he goes, is that Buffy the Vampire Slayer? So they made it important that Buffy the Vampire Slayer, was a big deal within this episode. And once again, I've been documenting about both of these things within the last few months. So what's so interesting is if you go back 2 years ago to around October of 2017, I was documenting a whole bunch of stuff about Marilyn Manson, the singer, Marilyn Manson, and I talked about how he was all synced up to the kneeling during the national anthem and, black people rising up. And Marilyn Manson is named partially because of Marilyn Monroe and partially because of Charles Manson. And then not even a month later, Charles Manson died in November. And Charles Manson had the helter-skelter theory about the blacks rising up, right? And within this, there was also the Harvey Weinstein stuff where, Rose McGowan was going against Harvey Weinstein. And Rose McGowan just so happened to be Marilyn Manson's ex-girlfriend at one point. And long story short, she was in this cult called the Children of God that River Phoenix was also in. And River Phoenix was in the movie Stand By Me. And right around this same time, we had Wendy Williams dressed up as the Statue of Liberty on Halloween, and she collapsed. And the main guest on her show was Jerry O'Connell. who was the fat kid in the movie Stand By Me. And we also had Corey Feldman in the media around the same time talking about the child molestation stuff in Hollywood. And I was like, interesting. There's these three characters or three people who are in the movie Stand By Me in the mainstream media right now. The only people that we're missing is Will Wheaton or Kiefer Sutherland. And the very next episode of The Big Bang Theory just so happened to have Will Wheaton on it. And he hadn't been on The Big Bang Theory for over a whole season. So it was odd that the next episode would have Will Wheaton on it. And then just 3 days later, we got the Sutherland Springs church shooting. I mean, what are the odds of this? I'm talking about this pattern with the movie Stand By Me. Then Will Wheaton's on The Big Bang Theory. Then we get the Sutherland Springs church shooting. And there's much, much more. That was also the day that Marilyn Manson made his comeback, the same day as that Sutherland Springs church shooting. Earlier in that year, a giant gun prop had fell on Marilyn Manson and broke his leg, and he couldn't perform. They canceled some of their tour. He came back on that same day, and he got flack for using a microphone that looked like a gun in San Bernardino, California, where we also had a shooting in 2015. And think about it, a gun prop, and then a gun microphone. Then later that year, we had the Stoneman Douglas shooting, and that's where Marilyn Manson, his band is from Fort Lauderdale, which is right next to the Stoneman Douglas High School, and much, much, much more. There was an article about him on the shooter of the Stoneman Douglas shooting, Nicholas Cruz. On his birthday, there was an article with Marilyn Manson saying that Columbine ruined his career, and then we get this shooting, right? And the Marilyn Manson even has a song called Valentine's Day that he has on the album called Hollywood that is, he made that whole album as a fuck you to the people who said that he caused Columbine, And Columbine's important because the original Air Force One was called Columbine 2. If you look this up, the original Air Force One was called Columbine 2. And think about the Columbine stories that we are getting constantly in the mainstream media recently, right? It was the 20th anniversary of Columbine, and there was somebody who was going to shoot up the school, and then we had the Brazil shooting where they said that they were, inspired by the Columbine shooting, and then today we got the story of this kid who was a Columbine survivor who died, and his name equals 612 in gematria, and Columbine High School equals 612, and, Stoneman Douglas was all about 612 as well. It's this important number, right? So, just wanted to point this out, right? Columbine 2 was the original Air Force One, and the reason that's important is because the Buffy the Vampire Slayer stuff was all about the number 310. And on the date of 310, I thought something important was going to happen that day, and we got the Ethiopian airline crash that was synced up to the Lion Air crash that we had back in October. And it was all to do with Boeing, right? And if you remember, way back when, Donald Trump wanted to cancel Boeing's order for Air Force One, and so on. So, the Columbine stuff is synced up to this airplane stuff that's going on. And before I move on, so back when this Stand By Me stuff was going on, and keep in mind, Stand By Me was really important. They had a Skylar Grey, a music girl who remade the song, and it was played at the Super Bowl, and then at Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's royal wedding, they even played the song Stand By Me, and that was right around the same time they had this season finale of The Big Bang Theory where Sheldon got married to Amy, and Sheldon's brother just so happened to be played by Jerry O'Connell, the fat kid from Stand By Me, and the original person who was going to marry Amy and Sheldon was Will Wheaton, but then they ended up getting Mark Hamill, who was Luke Skywalker, and that's important in a second because, well, for one, the first Star Wars movie in gematria, it equals 310. And like I'm telling you, the original Buffy the Vampire Slayer. The series, it first aired on March 10th. And in Gematria, if you write out Buffy the Vampire Slayer, it equals 310. We'll just type it out really quick. Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It equals 310. And I documented about the story we got on November 22nd about Sarah Michelle Gellar wearing lingerie, and it just seems so pointless. And I was like, Buffy the Vampire Slayer used to be one of my favorite movies, and there's just something to it. And I documented about that and Scooby-Doo and, some other things. And there was also a story of David Arquette in the mainstream media around that same time being in a bloody wrestling match. And David Arquette was in the film Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So I knew there was something important to it. And moral of the story, Luke Perry, who was David Arquette's best friend in the movie Buffy the Vampire Slayer, he ended up dying 3 months and 10 days after my post about Buffy the Vampire Slayer. That same day, we also had a tweet from Corey Feldman, and that was on March 4th here, but we had a tweet of Corey Feldman defending Michael Jackson after the movie, whatever it was, Leaving Neverland or something like that came out. And just think about this in regards to vampires. The Lost Boys, Neverland. Corey Feldman was also in the movie The Lost Boys, which also starred Kiefer Sutherland, right? And it also had Corey Haim in it. And if you look up Corey Haim just so happened to die on the date of 3/10. What are the odds of that, right? And Corey Feldman's whole campaign with the Hollywood whatever pedophiles was called the Indiegogo campaign. And look what that equals in Gematria, 310. And I knew there was something important to this vampire theme that was going on. And I decided to watch the film Lost Boys 2 because I'd never seen it before. And I noticed that after the vampires kill somebody, they do this distinct whistle. And it's like a remake of this whistle, and it's a darker sounding whistle of the song called Peer Gynt by Edvard Grieg. An old song that I can't remember how old it is, but it was written for a play called Peer Gynt that came out on 2/24, which is the day that leaves 310 days in the year. And the guy who wrote it, his name was like Edvard, I don't know how to spell it. Something like this. Hagerup Grieg. Yeah, that's how you spell it right there. His name equals 310. So I was like, what in the world, right? And the whole reason I even looked it up was just because my daughter watches this TV show called Troll Hunters that they do this exact same whistle the exact same way they did it on The Lost Boys 2. And so I looked up that song and I found out this 310 stuff that's connected to it. That Per Gent play is all about Scandinavian trolls. And just think about how my daughter's favorite TV show on Netflix is called Troll Hunters. So I was like, there's something to do with troll stuff that's going on. And clear back in 2016, I documented about the creator of the Troll doll and how he died 3 months and 10 days after his birthday even. And right around that time, back in 2016, there was a humongous troll theme. The movie Trolls came out, the one with Justin Timberlake. South Park was doing that troll trace thing where they the Jewish dad was trolling on the internet. I was getting trolled like crazy. There was a bunch of stuff that involved trolls at the time. And if you've been following what I've been saying how 2016 leading into 2017 was this big revelation period. And there's all of this stuff that was going on. I don't want to re-explain it, but it's connected a lot to August 10th and August 11th of this year, which I just wonder if something similar is going to happen. Around the time in 2016, we discovered reverse gematria, and they were flipping the script on a lot of things. And now that it just seems that same way. It seems like there's something we've been talking a lot about August 10th and 11th, and there's something bigger that is going on with it. I feel like there's going to be some big revelation in regards to this study that we're going to figure out in the time following August 10th and August 11th. And I'll explain more as we go along. This video is going to be a pretty long video, but it truly is important to August 10th. A lot of the stuff I've been talking about, it's important to Tisha B'Av on August 10th, and it's also really important to Pi, I discovered. So, and it really makes sense a lot with the Big Bang Theory and Sheldon and the number 73, which Leonard even says, we get it, it's the Chuck Norris of numbers. And when you look up Chuck Norris, would you believe that Chuck Norris's birthday? March 10th, 310, right? So it's really, really important. 73 is the Chuck Norris of numbers. The 73rd day is Pi Day. Stephen Hawking died on Pi Day. Also, I forgot to mention, in regards to the troll stuff, it's interesting that Buffy the Vampire Slayer is all about Raj in this episode. And if you look that guy up, he also was the voice of Guy Diamond in that Troll movie in 2016. And just think about this. They go to Sweden to give this speech about getting their Nobel Prize, right? Sweden is in Scandinavia, and that's what the whole troll theme is all about, right? Scandinavia and the trolls. And it's even funnier too if you look up the Nobel Prize. I'm not going to go to it, but well, let me find my post on it actually. If you look up the Nobel Prize in physics, you find out that the first person to ever win the Nobel Prize in physics was Wilhelm Röntgen, and he's the guy who invented the X-ray, right? And of course, his name in gematria just so happens to equal 310. Unbelievable, right? And he discovered Röntgen rays that equals 310. His Wilhelm Röntgen equals 227, which August 10th is really important to the number 227 in France. And that Ethiopian airline crash that happened on 310 is important to Haile Selassie, who Rastafarians believe was the second coming of Jesus Christ. And his name equals 227. If you take 22 divided by 7, you get 3.14. That's like pi, right? But just want to point this out. This guy, 310. A long time ago, I documented about him in regards to X-rays because I was talking about the letter X, and I thought it was interesting if you raise the X, raise it this way, it turns into a cross, like a T, sort of, similar to that, And supposedly, right, the kingdom of heaven is within you, and an X-ray you see inside yourself, right? So I was like, there's something interesting there, maybe. And I don't know, just pointing it out. I feel like there was something interesting. I've documented about it more than once. Another thing that I should have mentioned earlier, but I don't think I did, was clear back in 2017 when all of this Big Bang Theory, Stand By Me stuff was going on. I even mentioned how Kiefer Sutherland's dad is Donald Sutherland, and he plays Merrick in the film Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And that's what I really remember him the most from, because for whatever reason, as a kid, that's one of my favorite movies. I know everybody else hated it, but I mean, I don't know. I have like tons of memories of this movie, and Donald Sutherland was the vampire trainer of Buffy, right? So, I don't know. So there's something very, very significant to it, and it's interesting now Buffy on the TV show ends up being on the final episode of The Big Bang Theory. Also, there's some hope theme that is going on. The other day, okay, when I made this video about the Big Bang Theory, it was all about how they're surpassing the TV show called Cheers. And the reason this is so interesting is because let me type it out here. Clay Matthews is, there was a night back in March where I was DJing and I got texted to see when I could have a band gig, and all my schedule's a lot to do with Facebook. And I went to Facebook, and the first thing that was on there was this post from Chigozie Truth about Clay Matthews. And I was like, that's freaking strange, because right behind me, I have this giant picture of Clay Matthews right behind me, and I'm at the bar Cheers, right? And that's why it was important in regards to the Big Bang Theory surpassing the TV show Cheers. Anyway, what I pointed out was that, Clay Matthews in Gematria equals 150, Green Bay Packers 150. The town that I was in is Dow City, Iowa, which equals 150. And on May 25th, they're having their 150th anniversary as a town. And oddly enough, I'm DJing, or they're doing a talent show thing that I'm going up there for their 150th deal. And the lady who's been getting a hold of me, her name just so happens to be Hope. And I also work with this younger girl named Hope. And the other morning, the Hope lady for this Dow City, Iowa thing had texted me, and all I read was like, "Hi Dan, this is Hope." And it said, "Do you think you can stay until 6?" And I thought it was the girl that I work with that wanted me to stay at work until 6. And I was like, I was bitching about it. I was like, I don't want to stay till 6, but then I was going to anyway. And I tried going back to bed, but I was all like just kind of, kind of pissed off because people call it all the time, and I always work for them and whatever. And then when I actually got up to go to work, I realized that it wasn't from the Hope from work, and it was from the Hope to DJ or whatever. And I was like, sweet, right? But I was like, interesting, there's something to do with Hope. And I went to work, and the girl that I work with, she was telling me how she was in Council Bluffs the night before, or Omaha, and she was on this pedestrian bridge that goes from, Omaha to Council Bluffs. It goes across the river. You can walk across it. And she said an hour after they were on it, there was a shooting on it. And I looked it up, and of course, there was a shooting on this bridge. So I was like, there's got to be something to do with hope. There's something important to it. And I should have explained the lion stuff, but there's all of this stuff in regards to lion symbolism that is connected to August 10th. August 10th is actually World Lion Day, and that's why it's important on March 10th that we got that plane crash in Ethiopia synced up to Haile Selassie, who's the lion of the tribe of Judah, right? And he was also born on the first day of Leo, which is a lion, and World Lion Day is falling August 10th. It's falling during the time of Leo, which is the lion. And if you go way back to some of my old posts, I made this post about the wrestler named Vader, which is interesting in regards to James Earl Jones, who plays Darth Vader in the movie Star Wars. And he also plays Mufasa, who was the Lion King before, Simba takes over. And they're coming out with a new Lion King this year. Also, that plane crash from Ethiopia, it was going to Kenya, and Kenya is where the setting of the film The Lion King is based out of. It's also where Obama has ties back to, and Obama at one point said that he was the Lion King, and also Obama was born during the time of Leo, which is the lion. There's a whole bunch of lion symbolism, but if you go way back to my post about Vader the wrestler, I also talked about how his real name's Leon, which means lion, and there was something important to hope. James Earl Jones was in the movie called A Great White Hope, and it was about I can't think of the boxer's name, but that boxer was in the mainstream media getting pardoned by Trump or something like that at the same time. The Great White Hope. He was also in Darth Vader, and the very first Star Wars film just so happens to be called Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, which ironically in Gematria equals 310, like I said earlier in this video. But further, in 2016, we had that Chelsea bombing, and that was connected to this date of 9/19 I've been watching, because 9/19 will be 1 month and 9 days after August 10th. And think about it, it's 9/19 of the year 19, and then it's 1 month and 9 days afterwards. It's a lot of 19s that's going on with this. And all of this stuff was synced up to 2016 yet again when we had that Minnesota mall stabbing and the Chelsea bombing, and that's why Chelsea Manning has been in the mainstream media lately, and that's why Julian Assange got arrested, and so on. And it was all connected to this marathon stuff. I'll leave links in the description. If you followed me for a while, you get it. But in 2016, around that same time with the Chelsea bombing, and I was following this Field of Dreams theme, and it was synced up to the Native American theme. That's why I thought the Indians might be in the World Series against the Cubs that year, which they were. Anyway, in September, we got the death of W.P. Kinsella, the guy who wrote Shoeless Joe, the inspiration for the movie Field of Dreams. And he just so happened to die in a town called Hope, British Columbia. And, you know, there's something to do with it. Hope. The reason A New Hope of Star Wars is important too is, remember, Mark Hamill actually married Sheldon and Amy on The Big Bang Theory, and it was supposed to be Will Wheaton. Also, Marilyn Manson and, you know, he was connected to the Stoneman Douglas shooting, but we also had that rapper XXXTentacion who died on the same day that Vader the wrestler died last year. And XXX had that song called A Hope that he wrote for the Stoneman Douglas victims. So, even more important, right? Obama was running on hope when he ran for president. You know, one of the things he ran on was hope. And there's something important. When Kiefer Sutherland was in that TV show called 24, and in that show, the first black president gets assassinated when he's out of office. So there is definitely something important to Obama that's still going on with all this. But in regards to A New Hope with Star Wars, and that equals 310, we just had the death of Chewbacca, or Peter Mayhew, who equals 276. And the whole thing with the Big Bang Theory was about the 276th episode surpassing the TV show Cheers, right? And the word Wookie and satanic equals 328, and the Big Bang Theory equals 328. That story about the Big Bang Theory came out on the date of 328. Stephen William Hawking equals 328. Also, young Sheldon equals 328. If you read out pi as words, 3.14, that also equals 328. And think about it again. Stephen Hawking dying on Pi Day, the 73rd day, Sheldon's favorite number. I mean, it all has to do with pi. Even, I just documented about how Leonard Nimoy died in 2015, who Sheldon loved, right? He was Spock on Star Trek. He died on the date of 2/27. And think about this year, August 10th, being the 227th anniversary of the fall of the French monarchy. French monarchy equals 227. French Revolution equals 227. Estates General equals 227. That's when the French Revolution began. Napoleon, born on 227, or the 227th day of the year. We had the Bastille, the 227th anniversary of the storming of the Bastille. We had the Nice, France attack. 227. If 22 divided by 7, it also equals 3.14. And if you look up Leonard Nimoy's full name, Leonard Simon Nimoy, it just so happens to equal 810 in gematria, in satanic gematria, 810, like the date of August 10th. Another interesting thing about this 227 number, in regards to the French Revolution and whatnot, Napoleon, he died 3 months and 10 days before his birthday, and he died on the same day that the French Revolution began in history, May 5th. So the French Revolution even began 3 months and 10 days before Napoleon's birthday. And then he died 3 months and 10 days before his birthday. And his name is Napoleon. Leon means lion. Supposedly his name means Naples lion. And the reason that sticks out to me so much is because I've been following this Jeopardy theme. And Jeopardy was this big deal I was talking about with in 2016. And I got super trolled on all of them Jeopardy videos. Now we got the story of Alex Trebek, who might possibly die this year. He has pancreas cancer, and we got the James Holzhauer guy going strong on Jeopardy, right? And Alex Trebek's birthday, also 22/7, July 22nd, right? So once again, another connection to pi. But all of the Cheers stuff that I was talking about was connected to Woody Harrelson and how I had just watched the movie White Men Can't Jump as well. And if you remember on that TV show, his girlfriend Gloria gets on Jeopardy, and one of the questions that they put emphasis on is that they're talking about Mount Vesuvius and how there was the earth or the volcano eruption. And, that's in Italy. Let me find it here. It's located by Naples, right? And then Napoleon's the Naples lion, the lion of the tribe of Judah. There's all kinds of things that are just synced up to what is going on. And I don't even know how to organize some of this stuff, But, she says Mount Vesuvius in that show, and then they go to the judges, and then they accept it. It's supposed to be Mount Vesuvius, right? But I'm going to skip over a lot of this because I feel like I talked about some of this in a previous video, the one about the Kentucky Derby, and how Tacitus and Titus were important to the year Mount Vesuvius erupted and whatnot. And yeah. Well, and Kaylee, whatever, Kuko, who plays Penny on The Big Bang Theory, is also married to a horse riding guy. And the horse who won the Triple Crown last year was Justify, and Justify was foaled on 3/28, right? That day, synced up to The Big Bang Theory and whatnot. So there's something with Pope Francis too with this date. I'm telling you, that's why Napoleon's important to Italy and Naples lion. And just think about the Pope in regards to the Lion of Judah, right? Pope equals 52, 56. Just like Lion of Judah. Napoleon equals 266. The French Republic was established on the 266th day of the year. Pope Francis, the 266th Pope, went to the White House in 2015 on the 266th day of the year. Became Pope on 3/13 of the year 13. 3 is the second prime number, 13 the sixth, a lot like 266. Pope Francis has all these connections to France, right? Francis. France 34, Napoleon 34, Francis 34. So, I don't know. There's lots of important things going on with it. Maybe I'll bring it back up because I'm going to talk about Guantanamo Bay and all these, the helicopter crash that landed in it and that plane crash that skidded off the runway into the river, reminding us of the miracle on the Hudson just days before. So let's just look at these plane stories here and what I'm talking about with Guantanamo Bay. So in early May, we got this plane crash in Florida. The plane skidded off the runway and went into a river. And it reminds us of the miracle on the Hudson, right? When Sully crashed the plane into the river. And we just recently got that helicopter crash that crashed into the Hudson River. What are the odds of this? But this plane crash just so happened to crash into the 310-mile river, St. John's River. 310 miles long. What are the odds of that? And the plane was coming from Guantanamo Bay. And this was the night before the Kentucky Derby when maximum security got disqualified. And think about Guantanamo Bay, maximum security. Then we have Chelsea Manning in the mainstream media yet again. And Chelsea Manning was exposed Guantanamo Bay files on WikiLeaks and so on. So there's something important to Guantanamo Bay. And I've never watched the movie Harold and Kumar Escape from Guantanamo Bay. So I figured I would watch that movie Let me find my post here. I went back and watched this movie, Harold and Kumar, and there's some really interesting things in this movie. When Doogie Howser goes to like the whorehouse, the chick that he takes to do in the back, it on the show she's Tits Hemingway, but in real life I've actually met this lady before, and her name is Echo Valley, or that's what they called her at the strip club, and it's just really strange because it's just this small, crappy strip club in Denison, Iowa, and it's weird to have someone like this that comes there. It's usually just a bunch of, really ugly strippers and whatever else. You can get a lap dance for $1 and whatever else. But I have a super memorable experience with this chick when she was there because she squished my face in between her boobs and it about broke my glasses. So I don't know. It made me laugh. I knew who this lady was instantly when I saw her because, she had at the time, I think it was the biggest boobs in the world or something like that. So that just caught me off guard right away. I was like, huh, how crazy that I have met this lady before. And we've even talked about this lady at work with the old ladies because she came into the gas station that I work at when she was stripping up there for that week or whatever. So anyway, the moral of the story is that I watched this movie to see if there was something that I was supposed to see within this movie. Maybe there was a clue that was going on. And I didn't really notice a whole lot other than that part. But an interesting thing happened on May 16th. This day of the finale of The Big Bang Theory was one of my old friends reached out to me on last Saturday, I believe it was, and he said he's going to be back in town and wanted to hang out or whatever. And the very next day, his grandpa actually died in town, and so he had to come back anyway, which I thought was weird. I haven't talked to this guy in years, and then he messages me and asks if I'm gonna be around because he's gonna be coming back, and then his grandpa dies the next day. But anyway, on Facebook just the other day, he posted about Slipknot's. They just released a new single on May 16th called Unsainted for their new album that's going to come out on August 9th. And keep in mind, back in October, I believe it was, I talked about how Slipknot is going to be performing at the Iowa State Fair for the first time ever on August 10th this year. And that is, when the night of Tisha B'Av begins. And there's a whole lot of stuff that goes along with it. A long time ago, Donald Trump, before he became the president, he went to the Iowa State Fair, and he was in a helicopter, and he told some kid that he was Batman. And that same month, we got all kinds of stuff about Batman. We got the James Holmes, the Batman shooter, was sentenced. We had Batgirl, Yvonne Craig die. We also had the guy who dressed up like Batman and went around to hospitals die. We also had Morgan Freeman's granddaughter die, who, and Fox News, they showed them at the Batman premiere. There was all this stuff that was connected to Batman, and Donald Trump was in the helicopter. And it just makes me think about that helicopter that crashed into the Hudson River. Earlier, back in October as well, I documented about Jamal Khashoggi dying. And then we got a story about these two Saudi Arabian girls found in the Hudson River. And it was all synced up to the miracle on the Hudson. Then we had the death of George W. Bush, and his dog was named Sully, reminding us of the miracle on the Hudson. And Jamal Khashoggi's cousin was one of the people who died with Princess Diana in France. So there's this interrelated thing, and think about how France is connected to August 10th, which is the day Slipknot is going to be performing at the Iowa State Fair for the very first time. And anyway, when I was looking up Slipknot, I found out that one of their members, this guy right here, Chris Fain, or however you pronounce it, notice his birthday, the day that leaves 310 days in the year, but he got kicked out of Slipknot, or fired from Slipknot back in March. And notice he's also 46 years old. The word Slipknot equals 46. But anyway, I know that it's significant because when I was reading through his Wikipedia, it talks about his mask was featured in the movie Harold and Kumar Escape from Guantanamo Bay. Now, what are the odds of that, right? And it didn't have a citation, so I went and looked it up, and of course, this is really his mask. His mask is found in Doogie Howser's car just after Doogie Howser gets shot at that strip club or whatever, right? So this is unbelievable, right? The Slipknot guy's mask is in this movie. He just gets fired from Slipknot. Slipknot's this thing I've been watching, all year. Slipknot has the album called All Hope Is Gone, and on that album it has the song called Gematria, the killing name, right? The one that Paul Gray, the pig, died in connection to. And remember, this is a Chinese pig year, and with all of the Montegraph stuff that I was talking about, which I'll leave video links in the description, it was all about the number 166 and how this is a pig year, and it's connected back to 2016 a whole lot. And I talked about how it's connected to August 10th. The word pigs equals 166. Just the word pig equals 310. The Big Bang Theory equals 166. And that's why Montegraph made that video about the number 166, 166 days after my birthday. It's absolutely important. And I'm following these signs and symbols and whatever else. But we got All Hope Is Gone. And I'm skipping over a whole lot of stuff. You can come to the blog and read just, but, Unsainted, the singles equals 35, just like how Slipknot equals 35. But another interesting thing in regards to Slipknot and the date of August 10th is how it connects to that number 328 with the Big Bang Theory. Their bass player who died, who I have a whole video on as well, how he died all by gematria and so on. He's even number 2 in the band, and then gematria is number 2 on All Hope Is Gone, track 2. But his name equals 328. They also fired Joey Jordison in 2013, one of the original members. His name equals 328. And if you look up Corey Taylor, his birthday just happens to be 3 months and 28 days after August 10th. And remember the song Gematria, the Killing Name, it starts off with 12, 8, 73, that was all I got, and now you got me, right? So, his birthday is important to that song, Gematria, even, and it's 3 months and 28 days before or after his birthday, right? Also, I've been documenting about this Halloween theme, how it's important to Halloween, because Wendy Williams, when she collapsed, it was on Halloween, and River Phoenix was born on Halloween, and Halloween has this interesting connection to the number pi. If you write out pi in satanic gematria, it equals 95. Just like if you write out Halloween, Halloween equals 95. And my name equals 95, and my full name equals 95. And this is my favorite holiday, which is hilarious too, but in 2018, on Halloween, my computer randomly crashed and I lost everything I had on my computer, which has never happened to me in my entire life of owning a computer. So it was really strange. And then I didn't make videos for a while, but when I did, I started talking about the number 11 and how it was important, and pi also equals 11. And that's when I started talking about how this August 10th stuff seemingly is connected to what I was talking about in 2016. So Halloween is seemingly really, really important to, what is going on. We also had a Russian airline crash on Halloween. But when you look up Corey Taylor, you even find out that when he was a kid, he went to, and he saw Buck Rogers in the 25th century, and the trailer for Halloween was on there, and that's what he said developed some sense of Slipknot in him. And Halloween introduced Taylor to masks and horror themes, right? So, interesting they would even mention Halloween and why it's important. Plus, in regards to August 10th, the album All Hope Is Gone, it went certified platinum on August 10th of the year 2010, the same year that Paul Gray died, right? August 10th. And notice it is 57 minutes and 57 seconds in length. And that's interesting because earlier in the year I documented about how August 10th this year has a date numerology of 57, and it's 57 days after Donald Trump's birthday. The word helicopter equals 57. Iowa State Fair equals 57. Also, if you write out all hope is gone, all hope is gone, that equals 138, just like if you write out Donald Trump, 138, and all hope is gone in Frank Baconis also equals 276, which is a big number that was connected to, the Big Bang Theory surpassing Cheers with their 276th episode, and Chuck Norris equaled 276, and so on. Also, what's interesting is just yesterday we got this story about Edward from Twilight possibly being the new Batman, right? I mean, come on. So the vampire theme, right? Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the Lost Boys now a vampire. Edward Cullen might be the new Batman. I mean, it's craziness. And one of my worst trolled videos ever, and I keep mentioning trolled because of that 310 and how it's important to trolls in Scandinavia and so on, but way back when, Kanye West sang the song Bohemian Rhapsody at Glastonbury, and he wasn't even supposed to be at Glastonbury, but I mentioned how it was the Queen song, and Kanye West is, always synced up to Queen Elizabeth. It's really important. That's why Beyonce and Taylor Swift had that thing because of Kanye West. Taylor Swift equals 168, Beyonce Knowles 168, Queen Elizabeth II 168, and after Taylor Swift won at the VMAs, they even had mainstream articles calling her the Queen of the VMAs, and she had the album 1989, which is important to Queen Elizabeth and the movie Field of Dreams that came out on Queen Elizabeth's birthday in 1989, showing us the earthquake and Same City World Series earthquake that was in San Francisco, which has been important to August 10th and August 11th. But after Kanye West did that, he said he was the greatest living rock star ever. And Corey Taylor was in the mainstream media, the lead singer of Slipknot, saying that Kanye West was not the greatest living rock star ever. And, I'm just pointing out, there's a connection to Kanye West and all of this Slipknot stuff. And now, we have the royal baby, which I talked about back when they announced the royal baby's birth. I mentioned a whole lot about Kanye West going to the White House and why he was important. And then right around the same time they have the royal baby, Kanye West also has his fourth child. So it's super important, Kanye West here. I'm just pointing out that he just recently had another kid and they named it Psalm West and so on. So it is truly important to what I'm saying with this narrative here. Also, in regards to France, so this helicopter, right? Donald Trump, Iowa State Fair helicopter, right? But this helicopter crash that crashed into the Hudson River, there was some interesting things. I documented a whole bunch of stuff. I'm not going to even talk about it, but in this post, I looked up the word, I think I just looked up the word Hudson, because I wanted to know what Hudson meant. Like maybe there was a clue in the origin of the name, right? And when I looked it up, I saw these two fictional characters, Hudson Hawk, played by Bruce Willis. And recently, I've documented about some synchronicity with the movie Glass. So I was like, Hudson Hawk is Bruce Willis. So maybe something interesting about that. And I saw this story in the mainstream media, right? That's the reason I looked it up. And I went back to CNN, and there just so happened to be a story about Bruce Willis throwing the first pitch and getting booed at the Philadelphia Phillies game. And the reason it stuck out to me right away was because the pitcher, or the guy who was catching the first pitch, was Aaron Nola. And Nola is what people call New Orleans, Louisiana. And New Orleans is named in honor of King Louis, who was the king of France, right? And New Orleans, Louisiana also equals 227 in gematria. And we got this, okay. Aaron Nola's birthday is 6'4", and Bruce Willis is currently 64 years old. And the New Orleans Pelicans just recently landed the #1 pick in the draft. and most likely they're going to take Zion Williamson, and it was all about 64. It was 64 days after Anthony Davis's birthday. His birthday on 3/11, which is the 64th prime number. His name equals 64. Zion 64, Israel 64. Think about Zion in regards to Israel, right? And the third temple stuff that we're talking about with August 10th, Tisha B'Av, and so on. But also on this day, May 14th, it's the anniversary of Israel declaring its independence when we found this out. But it was also 2 months and 27 days before the 227th anniversary of the fall of the French monarchy on August 10th. And New Orleans, Louisiana, like I said, equals 227. We got the story of a lady who made the wooden doll for this. Her name equaled 227. If you look up France and Louisiana, named after this guy right here, his reign began on this day as well. May 14th, the day that they win the draft lottery. May 14th. You know, his name equals 49, just like, 49th prime is 227. His father died on May 14th. That's why he became the king. If you look at his father also died on May 14th. So May 14th, an important day to Israel, but it's also an important day to the French monarchy, right? And I'm talking about the connection to the fall of the French monarchy. So, these two stories here about the Hudson River, and then Hudson Hawk is Bruce Willis, and his first pitch to Aaron Nola, reminding us of New Orleans, right? Which has the France connection. And then they both, have these connections to 64. It's interesting. There's more connections to it as well. It was 310 days before Bruce Willis's birthday. Ashton Kutcher equals 64. And I previously documented about Bruce Willis's celebrity roast and how it's synced up to Ashton Kutcher, who's also from Iowa. Think about Slipknot from Iowa. The stock market crash began when the president from Iowa was in office. He's the guy who signed into Congress the Star Spangled Banner to be the official national anthem. It's all synced up to the number 88 and Donald Trump. Trump equals 88 and so on, right? Elizabeth equals 88. That's why he had his national convention in Cleveland 88 days after Queen Elizabeth's birthday, coming out with the song by Queen, "We Are the Champions." So, I don't know. I wonder if there's something to do with Interview with the Vampire, because I believe in that movie they go to France as well, don't they? Could be wrong. I'll have to look that up, but there's something going on with the vampires, how it's synced up to France, it feels like. Wish I could make these videos like on a daily basis, but it would make more sense, to follow the pattern, but just looking here. August 10th equals 310 in Gematria. If you write out 310, it equals 314 like pi. Luke Perry died 73 days before May 16th, and it was also 2 months and 12 days. And think about 21 and 12 in regards to what Sheldon says about the number 73 and why it's important. Hmm. I don't know, there's all kinds of stuff going on here. Wonder what, I'm going to look it up really quick, and then I'm just going to quit talking because it's really unorganized here, but Slipknot, Iowa. Wonder when their Iowa album came out. August 28th. Just before 9/11. Huh. 9/11 too. That's what I was going to talk about. Tisha B'Av being important to 9/11 symbolism. Al Qaeda was supposedly founded on August 11th, and Osama bin Laden was born on the date of 3/10. And Osama bin Laden also died on May 2nd, which is 3 months and 10 days before August 11th, right? The actual day of Tisha B'Av, right? Now, Tisha B'Av is all about the destruction of the two temples within history, and it falls on the 9th of Av, the 9th day of the 11th month. Think about the destruction of the two towers on 9/11. Tisha B'Av in Jewish gematria equals 911. So it really is important to, you know, a lot of things that are going on here. Also, Des Moines, Iowa is important too. I need to go charge my laptop here. Hold on. This connection to Jesus, right? Des Moines, Iowa equals 151, just like Jesus Christ, right? Also 61 and 74. Look at Jesus Christ here. Jesus Christ, 151, 74. Just Jesus equals 61, 74. Also 11, right? This number associated with pi. Also 34, like France, and so on, right? And Luke Perry dying on 3/4 is important to all of this. But Pope John Paul II was the only pope to visit Iowa, too. The Pope hasn't visited very many places in the United States, and he's visited Des Moines, Iowa before. So it's interesting, it has that connection to Jesus Christ and so on. There's something important to Iowa, and all of these things that are synced up to Donald Trump and so on. And it just makes me think about how the Marilyn Manson stuff began with, him and Rose McGowan are in that video called Coma White, where they reenact the JFK assassination. And it was synced up to the number 144. And Donald Trump met Pope Francis on the 144th day of the year, 4 months and 4 days after becoming the president. If you add up 44, it equals 144. A ton of other stuff with it. And November 5th was an important date with that because November 5th, I believe, is 144 days after Donald Trump's birthday. Let me see here. November 5th. November 5th is this important date I was talking about with the Mandela effect and so on. And it's also the day of the Sutherland Springs church shooting. Time equals 144. Back to the Future, they travel back in time on November 5th, just like in Time Rider, The Adventures of Lyle Swan, just like in the movie Time After Time, that stars the guy from A Clockwork Orange. Oddly enough, that movie Time After Time, it came out in 1979, the same year that Pope John Paul II came to Des Moines, Iowa, but that was also Corey Feldman's first ever movie that he was in. There's a lot of interesting things going on here, so I probably forgot a bunch of stuff. Just kind of going through here. All the Ethiopia stuff is synced up to the second coming of Jesus, right? Haile Selassie. So it's really important. I don't know the full meaning, but just wanted to just point out yet again that these synchronicity things have meaning and they're guiding you to something else. I know there's a piece, there's something else I'm supposed to learn that will piece it all together just that much more. And it still hasn't came. I've been documenting how all of these synchronicity things happen. I've noticed that if you follow the trolled comments that you get on your old videos too, that, you know, it's helping me out. It's making me get a better understanding of this. And I think that's why that troll theme in the number 310 is so important. And, you know, I live closer to Omaha, Nebraska, but I do live in Iowa. So maybe this is just for me. Maybe I'm supposed to see something and it has nothing to do with anything in the, you know, any type of destruction or this or that, right? So trying to think here. What are some of these songs? Well, that's interesting too. The 515, that's the area code in Des Moines, 515. And the helicopter crash was all about this number. Huh. That might be the big piece here. Hold on. Let's go back to this helicopter crash. because this helicopter crash that crashed into the Hudson crashed on 515, which is the area code for Des Moines, Iowa. Huh. How interesting. And I talked about how the miracle on the Hudson was on 115, or the 15th day, and then this one was on 515. You know, both on the 15th, first month, fifth month. The Hudson had 155 people on board. Henry Hudson, 151. Helicopter, 51. Crashed in Manhattan, it equals 151. If you're at out 15, it equals 310. Ha, 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 ha. I'll have to think more on that, but that's very interesting. The helicopter theme is important to Donald Trump saying he was Batman at the Iowa State Fair. It was on 515, which is the Des Moines area code. Huh. Alright, well, whatever. I don't even know what else to talk about here. Like I said, come to the blog and you can start back with like a month and just read up some of these blog posts or just listen to my old videos because I explain a lot of what I went over within these other videos. And I know they're long, but that's the only way that you're truly going to catch up and understand what I'm talking about. So, have a good one. Peace.